tidbits and personal stories of what someone's been through.
But David, you don't look like you're having fun. You don't look like you're having fun at all.
I have what's called resting cock face. They call it RCF.
Oh my God.
Don't let that fool you, Barbara. This is what I look like when I'm...
It's intimidating.
Oh, yes. As a cop, that wasn't the worst thing in the world, but I suppose as a podcast host, that's not the same thing. Would you say that most of your successes in real estate investing have been built off of failures?
Yeah, because, I don't know, there's something about the universe when you fall on your face, it's like bouncing a ball. The harder you hit, the more you could bounce up. And there's always another flip side to it. Always another flip side. I learned that building my business very much so. In terms of investing in real estate outside of my firm, where I bought properties and nurtured the properties and tried to increase the rent rolls, I don't think that really holds true that I learned from failure. I just became very careful. But I did have a wacky formula for buying real estate, and I always did well by repeating the same little dance step again and again. Do you want to know what that is?
Please.
I should do your question, as you know, okay? Number one, I always bought in up-and-coming areas. I was in Brooklyn long before anybody was buying Brooklyn from Manhattan. I was in there early, and I always looked for a 10% partner. I found a local person who knew their neighborhood, loved their neighborhood, wasn't in the business. I made them the 10% partner. I put in the cash. And they found me the best property, the absolute best property. So I hedged my bet right away. I paid them the 10%, and I told them they could overpay for the property. I didn't care. And almost every property I overpaid for. I overpaid again and again and again. I've just repeated that again, and I've also located the up-and-coming areas by talking to waiters, creative people, and said, where are you living now? They were poor. They couldn't pay their rent. They had 5 guys living together or 4 girls living together. And I would say, where are you living? And they'd tell me where they were living. I would go out that week and look at the area. And that's always where I bought my real estate. And that's where the biggest gain is, in up-and-coming areas. But they risk it. You don't know what you're doing. And I had a partner who knew what they were doing.
Okay.
Here are 3 red flags to identify when interviewing real estate agents for your short-term rental purchase. The first one is if they don't have much experience selling short-term rentals. Even the greatest primary home agent is not going to be the best choice.
Okay, so you said that you found a 10% partner. Can you explain this construct a little bit? When you say 10% partner, did you say, hey, go find me a cool building. If you find me a lead, I'll give you 10% of the purchase price? Or were they actually equity partners in that property?
They were equity partners, and they stayed with me until I sold. I hold on to properties a long time because they make a lot of money slowly in real estate. But when I sell, they get their 10% share. And it's substantial. Sometimes I paid off my partners with 10% that represented 50% of what we paid for the building 10 years ago. Because they really rich. But their interest was there. Their heart and soul wasn't like a broker want to sell me something. Their interest was, I'm going to buy you the best place, the right side of the street, away from that problem. Because they were changing areas, choppy areas, so you can always make a lot of mistakes there. I never made a mistake. They always found me the best stuff.
That's really cool. So did they have any, if you're giving someone 10% stake in the property, were they sort of like property managers? Did you actually empower them to actually run and maintain the property as well, or was that a separate job function?
No, I really didn't, because I knew how to run property. I had the organization set up, and that's not really what turned them on. They didn't want to collect rent and stuff, you know? But why it worked so well is I had the money. I didn't have the time. They had the time. They didn't have the money. We were perfect partners together.
Awesome. Did you ever make any millionaires out of these partners?
Millionaires? Well, I had a different one in every locale I went into. No, probably not millionaires, but close to millionaires.
Yeah, probably pretty close if it's 50% what you paid for the property. So I've always said this: if you can afford it, it's probably too late. If you can't afford it, it's probably too late for you to buy it. Like, you never really can afford the thing that you want. So you should be buying things that scare you a little bit, things that are a little bit more up and coming. And you said that you would go into these neighborhoods and overpay. Why overpay for a property at this time?
Because there's something weird that happens when you're a dealer in properties. The minute I was interested in something, gosh, somebody else was interested. So I would just say right away, I'll pay 10% more than the next guy. Close it, get your hands on it, take it off the table. It shouldn't be that way, but it's, for me, maybe I had bad luck. It always was that way. So I just decided I didn't care about overpaying. You know, you go into a new up-and-coming area, it appreciates so quickly that 10% is absorbed. less than a year later. You've already made up that loss, and it's not even a loss, it's a perceived loss. But you more than make it up, so why worry about it? It's history.
Yeah, it's a very narrow perspective when the only way that you look at making money in real estate is from one element, such as you only look at the cash flow, you only look at the price you paid versus what they're asking for. I broke it down to 10 different ways that you make money in real estate, and you mentioned one of them is what I call market appreciation, which is this area will appreciate faster than the market as a whole, that you refer to as up and coming area. Well, if you have a really big chunk on that end, you can afford to buy less equity, which is what I call when you pay less than a property's worth. You don't have to win as much on that side if you're getting a huge win on another side. And you're a great example because so many people in our community would say you should never overpay. Just go write another 7,500 offers instead, and eventually you'll strike gold. But you may end up buying a property that nobody else wants, and there's a reason why that would be.
I share a story I heard as a very young broker that never left me. I was going to listen to Harry Helmsley. Of course, you know that name. The biggest commercial owner in New York at the time. I heard him lecture, and I raised my hand. I said, hey, listen, how do you get a great deal on a property? He said, I always overpay. What? You overpaid? That's what he...
So you get a good deal by getting a bad deal, kind of.
Yeah, right, because it makes up for it in the long run. Or even in the short run, it makes up for it.
I mean, I would say, and David, I don't know if this is true for you too, but on my end of things, when I calculate all the cash flow that I've ever made from real estate, it really pales in comparison to the appreciation I've had on the portfolio itself.
You know, Barbara, that's one of the things about your story that I wanted to ask you is it seems like when you got your start, you talked about the snowball. That first property, the value created the next, created the next. Now, equity from previous properties is paying for future properties. You never have to put your own money into real estate again, theoretically. This is in direct opposition to the cash flow gurus that tell everybody only look at properties for the ROI the cash flows are going to provide. Nothing else matters. As someone who's been very successful with real estate, who has admitted that you're playing an appreciation game, kind of thinking out like an entrepreneur. If I buy this company, how much can I increase the value of the company? Not just what are the cash flows of this company right now. What can you share about that perspective?
You know, I don't even, I probably shouldn't admit this, but I don't pay attention to it. How I look at it is I look at the property and think, how much of a mortgage could I slam on this property? Do the tenants pay the rent? And I have a little extra to pay the expenses that always come up, you know, new roof, a boiler, what have you. So I just see how highly leveraged I could get. And then the minute the property becomes worth more and the rents go up, I go back and slam a new mortgage on it and take the money out. Remember, tax-free, take the money out, I buy another property. So I believe in a high leverage. I'm not afraid of that at all. As long as I can pay my expenses. I never leverage beyond the point where I'm not going to sleep at night, you know? That's how I multiplied my portfolio again and again. Do you know, I bought, and this is a true story, I bought a studio apartment in Greenwich Village when I was 29. I scraped together 10%. I think it was $88,000 or thereabouts is my recollection. I scraped together, I chickened out, and I didn't close. They kept my deposit. I didn't sue for it. Because I just purposely failed the board. It was a board, okay? It took me 3 years before I could get my hands on another property because Manhattan ran away from me. There was no way I could buy something. When I finally bought a studio, I traded it for a one-bedroom. Then I traded it for a two-bedroom, and I can always afford it because it appreciated a lot. Then a three-bedroom. I can't say I bought the penthouse I live in today, which is worth so much money from that property. But I would have never been in the game if I hadn't gotten in the game. It was such a shame I didn't get into it 3 years earlier. I could have done so much. Not that I regret that, because I guess you get cold feet once in a while, right? But I cold feet again. Very often at a closing table, I'll start second-guessing myself. Like, well, how good is that area? And I just look at my partner and I think, what do you think? They are such a believer in the neighborhood. I go, no problem, let's close.
It's so interesting. It sounds like you're investing in an area, not as much in a specific unit.
I don't care so much about I care about the area, but realize, too, I care about the partner. If I've got the wrong partner, I've got the wrong building. If I've got the wrong building, I've got the wrong numbers, you know? Another story I share with you, which illustrates this beautifully, is I bought a tenement house on 10th Street in Greenwich Village, and I still own West 10th Street. I bought that building for $120,000, which sounds ridiculous. A 5-story, 8-unit building, okay? I remortgaged that building to date probably 9 times, maybe 10. I don't know if I'm exaggerating. Every time I took a chunk load of hundreds of thousands of dollars out of it, and I had a great standard of living. I always took that money out for one purpose, to buy myself a more beautiful home or a second home. It's been a cash cow. I would never sell that business. I would never sell anything. I said business. It's really like a business, a separate business. I would never sell that building.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So this sort of reminded me of a story that I've heard, something that I heard on your social channels, actually, I think on TikTok. A story about the penthouse that I believe you own now, and the origin story of how back in the day you sort of willed it and you manifested it, right? That, hey, this is going to be my property one day. Do you think you could share that story for the listeners at home?
Of course I could. I was in a bad stretch of real estate. I took a job as a messenger because I could work different hours. I had the Corcoran Group at the time. As shocking as I might sound, I probably had about maybe 85 agents, 90 agents working for me, but I couldn't meet my overhead. So I decided I needed another job. So I went out and worked as a messenger. They paid very well per messenger that you delivered. And I delivered some package to a lady up on 97th and 5th. I walked in to her house, an older lady, and I looked, and she had a stunning terrace and view of Central Park. I was blown away. I didn't know people lived like that, even though I was in the real estate business. I had never seen a place like that. And I said to her, as she signed for the message, I said, do me a favor, ma'am, call me if you ever decide to sell. Did I believe myself? Probably not, but I thought, what the heck, I'll put in my hat, you know. And she gave me, what did she say? I think she said something, they'll take me out in a box, or I'll die at this place, something like that. I left. You know, she called me like 14 years later, and I bought her apartment for $10 million. How do you like that? I don't say I'm manifested it. I don't think I manifested. I had a lot of good luck making money after that, and I came out of whatever trough I was in and was able to quit that job and concentrate on my business again. But I couldn't believe it when she called me. I remembered the view, and it was no different when I went back to see it.
So when she called you, by the way, this is one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard. But when she called you, did she happen to remember Barbara Corcoran, the messenger? Or at this point, had your business exploded and maybe she remembers your face and she saw you on billboards? Like, how did she get in contact with you?
When she saw me as a messenger, I wasn't doing billboard advertising. I didn't do full page ads in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. I became prominent in my field after that. I don't think she even registered my face, but she must have. But then she saw that I might have the money for that thing, because I looked like a big cheese, even though most times I didn't have the money, right? And she called me on the basis of what she was seeing in the public eye. I'm just happy she remembered me. And you know, funny enough, 2 days ago, I got a handwritten note from her. She remembered I can't remember her first name. Anyway, she said, thank you for answering my call. I'm so happy I called you to sell you my apartment. And I kept it as proof, because a lot of things that can't possibly happen. I have it.
Amazing. Okay, well, I'm going to put it out there right now for all of the hundreds of thousands of listeners at home. Barbara, when you want to sell your penthouse, please call me. Right? I'm going to give myself a 14-year clock to be able to afford a penthouse in New York City. Deal?
It's a deal, but you better shorten your clock. Maybe 10 years. I'm not sure I have much time left.
All right. I'll start putting the feelers out around 9.5.
Good enough. I won't answer your call. I'm sure my people on my house.
So that house, I mean, at the time that you bought it, obviously it is very expensive, $10 million. But was that also in appreciation play? Did you know, hey, if I buy this, it's going to be worth more one day? Or was it just more of a, I want this because I wanted it. I want to realize this goal of owning this home, and, you know, the financials are kind of the afterthought.
Nothing's more luscious than having a dream come true. That's what drove me. I wanted my dream to come true. I dreamt about that place over and over again. Okay, that was the driver. But I also knew, as a real estate person, you